What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord, Dr. Professor, Dark Joker, here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are Traditional Fans with Opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. Kurumizawa's Folly, Chapter 18. So in this chapter, Hada tells Kurumizawa his plan. So, so basically, the plan is for, you know, what the Hada's plan is to have Yoshikawa, like, basically, like, is the idea is for, like, for Hada to take pictures of Yoshikawa basically with their clothes up, trying to seduce Kurumizawa in order to, basically get, like, her own series, like, published. Um, yeah, so, and basically the photos would be used as evidence of that. And then, yeah, so, basically, then that, and then he explains, he says, he'll claim that, he tried to, and then basically she attacked him in order to, like, basically after he rejected her, and then, Hada had decided to capture the evidence on film. Then when he tried to, like, stop her, uh, Yoshikawa attacked him with a pin. That's how he got injured. And Kurumizawa asks why it has to be seduction, and he says it could just be theft or other stuff. But Hada says, well, if it's seduction not only could be can she be accused of a crime, but the pictures would be humiliating for her. Dude, like she would be trying to basically, per the cover up would be like, the claim would be that she tried to sleep with Kurumizawa in order to advance her career, and so that humiliation would reduce the chances of her telling anyone. And then basically he would say, would she try to claim the pictures were taken against her will if those pictures were released basically to everyone? And basically Hawes says, as long as there's photographic evidence to back up the story, everyone will assume that any claim she makes would be basically be a lie in order to make herself look better. And a lot of people would be sympathetic to Hada because of his injury. And Kurosawa says there's got to be a better way, but Yoshikawa says it's fine. Just she says she'll do what Hada says just to let her go. She says Hada had tried to warn her to stay away, but she ignored him, and now she's paying the price. She'll just you know she says she doesn't want to have anything to do with the two, so just get the pictures and be done with it. And so she takes her shirt off and starts pretending to like straddle Kurumizawa. And and basically, and then yeah, and then yeah, so and then Hada tells Yoshikawa that he's sorry for you know that he's sorry for what, like, her being dragged into all this. And he asked her to not, like, use the name Kinsaku Hada in public for the rest of her life. And then yeah, so and so basically Kurumizawa apparently was waiting for a phone call, so Hada goes to grab Kojima, and so apparently Kojima's not aware of the bones. So Hada says maybe they could just not turn the chapter, and then he could get fired for it being late. Then all three of them could just live in the mansion. He'll give advice on making manga, and then Hada will earn income, and Kurumizawa will make the meals with Kojima doing nothing. And Hada says, Kojima will probably resist, so they gotta tie him up. And then, he says, he'll have Kojima write a resignation letter. And, Kurumizawa holds a knife to Hada's neck, saying that he doesn't want Hada running away with Kojima in his arms. So Hada puts Kojima down. Now, question comes from Kurumizawa: is he concerned based on what Hada just done? Is he concerned about Kurumizawa about Hada doing something to Kojima, or is he concerned about them getting away? And then Hada says he'll dispose of the bones in the back, and he says that'll be in case the Yoshikawa tries to talk and prove that and to be prove that he won't betray Kurumizawa. And then yeah, and and basically Hada says once they get all that done, they be the two-man team of Yoshihiko Kurumizawa, and Kurumizawa says no. The reason he been trying to trick the entire world was to kill Yoshihiko Kurumizawa, whatever that means. Then he hears the phone call, so he answers the phone. And so Hada gets a phone call. It's implied that Michan is dead. It's not said what happens, but you can tell by the facial expressions in the panel that she's probably dead. So Hada says, he says he's sorry that he can't live up to his hopes, and he says, Hada's now free. Then he comes back. Hada's disappeared. And you see the bag. He sees this bag with a camera, and he notices there's no. So the sprocket in the hole in the camera was broken. So the film had been rotating. So basically, like all the pictures that he had been taking, they were blank. So there was like no pictures. So Yoshikawa had like basically, so there's no evidence against her. So basically, she calls the cops and goes on the phone to say that two people are being held hostage. And you see Kojima running away. Kurumizawa, he's like, you son of a. So I guess he's kind of like impressed with Hada. Based on his face, he's probably concerned about going to prison, but he's also probably like they kind of impressed. And you see Hada taking like Kojima away, and he says he's not going back to Yoshihiko Kurumizawa. So we'll see yeah what happens next chapter. But yeah, so okay, that was a chapter. Like, that was a freaking chapter. Like, holy crap. Yeah, so I was pretty shocked about like holy crap. Like yeah, so I thought this was a good chapter. Like I think most people were expecting for Han to basically be going full villain and trying to like do something in order to keep the charade going. But then he like the whole twist with the camera. It's like, oh, okay. Like I was like I was not expecting that. Like I was like, what the frick? I was like, what? Like it's freaking insane. So yeah, I thought this was a a really good you know chapter. Uh, Looking forward to the next one. The Hunting Party, season 2, episodes 10 and 11. So in these episodes, so in episode 10, the killer in this one is Byron May. Basically, he's the called the East Side Ripper. Now, as far as the public's concerned, the East Side Ripper is Victor Rosa and is in prison. Now Rosa is in prison, but basically the pit had captured May. Basically, did not get Rosa freed, so obviously Bex's team's pissed off about that. And then yeah, so basically then so what happens here is so they try find May. What May did is he would like he had trouble, I guess, connecting with people, so he got obsessed with getting connected, so he would become obsessed with people. Then, if he got rejected, he would kill them. And, like, that's essentially what happened. So, comes across, he ends up meeting Rosa's son, and, Rosa's son had basically not been right with Rosa for, like, Rosa's wife had visited him basically every day, or like every week, or whatever. Basically, he still believed in his innocence, and Rosa would never confess because he was innocent. And so and the son basically just stopped right and like Rosa was there's a whole bit where Rosa's like, do I admit guilt for something I do or do I just never see my son again? Like that was a like a basically an interesting like quote like where I was like, dang, like man, he has to choose between false making a false confession or not seeing his son again. Like that's freaking brutal choice to make, especially given the crime. Now they're able to now the team's able to catch Byron. They're able to get Rosa free, and so Rosa's able to be reunited with his son. And now you have Shane. He's has to deal with the fact that Lazarus had known for a lot longer that she had claimed that he was that Shane was her son, and basically had gotten him hired at the pit. So yeah, so so obviously so then they're gonna have to figure out what's going on. So and then basically you have like one thing is you have the team. And then next episode they're dealing with this like serial killer named Dylan Miles, who basically definitely weird. So yeah, so basically he was a failed comedian. He was a ventriloquist comedian. He had trouble, I guess, communicating growing up, like talking. He was like I guess a late bloomer as far as that's concerned, but he was able to communicate through like basically using dummies like puppets. So and he was basically got heckled. Basically, his victims were all people who heckled him at the whatever comedy clubs he was performing at. And when he was captured, basically the pit like had dolls made for him to talk to, and then yeah, so like he would like basically like he would do voices for the dolls and like talk to them. And then when the blast happened, he tried to find the guy who made the puppets, and then found the real people who were models for the puppets. Because the guy who made the puppet, basically within the show, he's a big name in like I guess the art of making ventriloquist puppets, like Nicholas Fletcher. So he was like a big name. And like Miles kills him, and then he finds Fletcher's ledger that reveals the names and I guess addresses of everyone who inspired like the dolls. So you have Debbie and Peter, two of the dolls. So he finds the real people who they were based on. as he's trying to recreate the two dolls, and he's able to. And you see him like actually physically recreate like here's on what you find is the guy who was inspiration for Peter. So then his last victim, the last guy he goes after is a comedian named Jeff, basically who has a basically a ventriloquist puppet that's based off of Dylan, and so basically like makes fun of Dylan, and Dylan's pretty pissed off, so he abducts him, tries to kill him. Now the team's able to find him, and they're able to and then so Bex is able to get Dylan to not kill Jeff by saying, since Dylan had made a Jeff puppet and like to like make fun of Jeff and people laughed. That was probably the first time anyone laughed at any of his jokes. And so basically Beck says, "Hey, let Jeff live the humiliation instead of just kill him." So Dylan puts a gun in, but he says, his work's done. So he tries to kill himself, but he's like captured. So yeah. So then one of the things that happens after that is so Shane, um, like Bex and like and like and Hassani, they try to like try to figure out how to get inside Lazarus' apartment. So Shane's idea is to have her like invite her for dinner somewhere, and then while Bex and Hassani go inside the her apartment. So they do that, and then they you know basically like when they do it, so they try to do that, and then so they're in the whole hunt for Miles. So Morales and so Angel Morales, that's like like she's like the computer girl. She's like the army intelligence officer who's like basically the tech support. And then you have Peck, who's like an associate of Lazarus, who's into Morales. Now he's concerned about getting with her because basically he's a superior officer, so concerned about how that would play out, which isn't an understandable concern. I mean, 'cause I don't know how the military handles that. I don't know what the rules are there. I'm not gonna. I don't know. So now they're in investigation to a house. Basically, Peck takes a bullet from Morales, and he survives, but he's taken to a hospital. Morales takes him to a hospital, and so and then basically, Morales sees footage, like of like the attack on the convoy, taking that killed one of the killers. So basically, then yeah. So what happens? And so and then yeah. So Peck was involved with the he was leading the assault team on the convoy, and so basically, obviously Peck's definitely involved. What happened? How much Lazarus involved? Who knows? But she's probably heavily involved. So we'll see because there's like 2 episodes left. So we'll see very soon what's going on because that will be a big deal. Like what happens like the next 2 weeks. So yeah, I thought that these were good episodes. Looking forward to the next one. Snowball Earth episodes 3 and 4. So in these episodes, so Ao like deploys some fog machines to distract the kaiju that has appeared. So all of her people they have a chance to escape, and Tetsuo uses himself as a distraction in order to keep the kaiju away from the people. Now the kaiju's about to eat him, like captures him. Yukio appears, like basically it's like a, I guess like a new robot with Yukio's like personality, whatever. And so Yukio appears and saves him, and explains he employs his mind to like the an escape pod. So and the process had only just finished. So Tetsuo's happy to see Yukio alive again, so he enters the cockpit and fights the kaiju, and he decapitates the kaiju with this with Yukio's sword arm. So everyone sees everyone celebrates Tetsuo's victory, and Ao notices how Tetsuo's experience at fighting kaiju. Now there's another humanoid kaiju in Tokyo. So yeah, so then that leads into like episode 4. So yeah, so so Ao explains to Tetsuo and Yukio that 10 years ago a humanoid kaiju appeared with a white sphere on its head, and it was shortly after Tetsuo and Yukio had left. You know, shortly after Tetsuo and Yukio left Earth, the spheres like basically were spreading globally, and it froze everything that touched. People, buildings, the plants. So that's why basically it's like a second ice age. It's a kaiju costume. Now, so Aonogi, that's her full name, the girl. You know, basically, she and her group lead Tetsuya Yukio to Mishima Mall, where some other survivors are at. And so everyone welcomes, Tetsuya and Yukio, learning that they're the ones who went up into space to fight kaiju. And so Mishima Mall has like is basically there's this one place where there's no snow, and the reason is because there's a kaiju that keeps the mall warm. Basically, what happened years ago is that basically when a group of survivors, so Ao when she was a kid, had like somehow like tamed this like kaiju with like fire abilities, and so she was like a kaiju tamer. And basically the kaiju she now it's not full term. So the kaiju's just curious in humanity, and so basically it's only staying and I guess helping warm up the place, or just out of curiosity, but it could turn on survivors anytime. And there's a possibility that ERRDE, which is a group Tetsuo was a part of, it might still exist. As far as what happened, who knows? And there's this whole scene. There's a funny scene where like so when Ao's trying to explain stuff to Tetsuo, she gives him some like pineapple, whatever. I get like we're about to eat. She says thank the gods, or whatever, and Tetsuo's like, wait, what? And Ao's like, oh yeah, yeah, thank you for this meal. And, like the whole "ekurakimasu" or however it's pronounced. Like, I guess I don't know if there's some issue about like I guess thanking the gods or something. Yeah, so definitely this is like yeah it's definitely interesting. So yeah, I thought this was a these were good episodes. So we learned okay how the Earth froze. So yeah, so definitely it's interesting how things are happening. So looks like some kaiju like still causing problems. So obviously Tetsuo as like I guess like humanity's savior has to like deal with that. Now Ao's considered a savior for like taming a kaiju, although it's yeah, oh, she wasn't necessarily fighting off kaiju like Tetsu is. So yeah, we'll see what's we'll see what happens the rest of the series. But yeah, I thought these were good episodes. I liked all like the combats of like the kaiju, what they revealed about you know what was revealed about about the backstory for the Ice Age, whatever. So yeah, I thought this was a these were good episodes. Looking forward to the next one. Hulk Hogan, Real American. So this is a documentary series on Netflix about the late Hulk Hogan. You know, now, production of this had started like before he had passed away because the main interview shown is his interview that he did with Netflix for the documentary, and you see bits and pieces throughout this. So basically, this was already starting production before, and obviously you had other people. So you had other people interview, his ex-wife Linda Claridge, um, you know, yeah, yeah, so basically, yeah, so and so like and yeah, I think it was like his kids, like Brooke and Nick are both. Well, I think Nick is at least interviewed. His son, like, or so it goes like his wrestling career, like basically like how WrestleMania one, like when that's like he was like the one of the early big like stars in WWE. Like he was one of the really like early big ones. So like he got big, and you have when the Hulk Hogan and Mr. T beat Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and you have so because you had Muhammad Ali there, and you had also some the whole, of course, whatever, all the steroid stuff that was going on in WWE, because basically they were all doing steroids. Like, it's well known that's what happened. Of course, how Vince McMahon was indicted, and I guess some of the beef that Hogan and McMahon had as a result of all that. With Hogan, of course, going to WCW, and you had so you had WrestleMania 3, where Hogan beat Andre the Giant, you know, one of the most famous matches ever. He had, when he in one of his comebacks when he fought Dwayne the Rock Johnson, that he and it was during like his whole villain arc, the NWO stuff, and he like he lost to the Rock, but the crowd like basically they were all cheering for Hulk, and like it's considered to be one of the most iconic fights ever in WWE, like in wrestling history. And you have, of course, you had, when he first won, the championship. And yes, when he beat Iron Sheik, so basically when he fought Iron Sheik, because you had the Iranian hostage crisis, you know basically had happened, and he had fought, 1940 fought, and basically like well, that was still hostage crisis was still in recent memory, and Iron Sheik was of Iranian descent, so people were very happy to see an American beat an Iranian in like in that. Now look, there's a lot of stuff that's staged in wrestling. Some that's for entertainment reasons, some that's probably kind of I think there is some safety stuff involved with it. And Hogan was basically the face of WWF at that point because it was WWF, and like basically had Hogan like the Hulkamania, basically his personality. And you see some of his his childhood, how like he basically like dropped out of like high school, whatever, tried to join band, and became a professional wrestler. There's some issues with his with his father about how basically once he won the title, they had basically made up or whatever. And his brother like overdosing, and you see like and it mentions some stuff. So and you have the what happened with the like so there's so really I guess there was some beef that happened between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon over the and basically like Bret Hart had like lost, and Hulk Hogan basically took the title basically wanted it for Hart, but Hart's like, what the heck? Like, basically there was some beef between like and and you have areas and you have basically some the like his career, so his fights you have where he basically Ultimate Warrior was supposed to be the next face after after Hulk, but Hulk Hogan basically became the face again. And it's interesting how like Hulk like he retired but then come back like and he went to WCW but then that didn't go well so WCW basically got bought out by Vince McMahon. And of course WWF became WWE. Does don't recall I don't think it doesn't really get into why it became WWE but basically there was like copyright issue and Hogan and his family they did the reality show but that caused so many problems led to like the divorce between him and Linda. And of course, he had two marriages after that. He had Hulk had like had basically like there was a lot of issues. So Linda like was dating some guy partly to piss off Hulk Hogan during the whole divorce proceedings. Where well, I can't remember if it was during or after the whole divorce was finalized. Like there's a lot of like because Hulk had like allegedly like cheated on her and like yeah, I mean look, he's a celebrity. It's not surprising. A celebrity cheating on a spouse is not that surprising. It's not. It sucks to say, but it's not surprising. And look, obviously he had, his issue. He did some, drugs and stuff. And then it later part, you see, and every one WrestleManias where at one of Trump's hotels. How that was, of course, you had mask where guards were a lot of them were at, and then you had one of Trump's hotels, and that's how Hulk became friends with President Trump. But this is before he was president, of course. And Hulk for a while basically had stayed out of politics, and it actually goes into how he started like getting involved with the 2024 election. So basically, he said he voted for Trump 2016, 2020. He stayed quiet because he feel like he should get really talk about politics, and then like after the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, he decided to actually speak out and be more public about his support for Trump, which led to his speech at the RNC in 2024. A very memorable speech. You know, like like basically because basically he just his whole personality in that kind of setting. It's definitely interesting in that like and how obviously there was backlash against him because basically and when he went to a wrestling event in in LA like in California he got booed. I mean it was LA, it's not that surprising he got booed there due to that. And basically people are like yeah about half and half are going to be left and right. He pissed off half, so that's just what happened. And it's true, that's what happened, basically, and yeah, but then of course goes how he passed away and all the tributes and you see how and and you see like and it's very respectful. So and you see as far as the interviews, it took interviews from people of multiple sides of different issues, where it's like the drugs, his support for President Trump, the steroid stuff, the like the basically various scandals. Like it took most. So you have of course Hulk's interviews, you have Linda's interviews, Nick, even President Trump was interviewed, and you have other wrestlers like like I'm trying to remember all the names of everyone. Like I think The Rock, I believe I recall was interviewed. Bret Hart, I think Jesse Ventura. Like you see a lot of people get like, and basically they were all respectful to, even if they may not had some, even if any of them had issues with like some of the stuff he did, and like, but they were still very respectful. Like, and basically this is a very objective doc. It just presents information, like it goes into like it just presents and you see different perspectives. So it is definitely one of the more objective documentary series I have seen. And I really enjoy it. I'm not much of a WWE guy. Like I mainly watch it just because it's Hulk Hogan. I mean, so yeah, I watched it and I really enjoyed it. Like yeah, he was definitely he definitely had personality. You know, like like you can see why like he was like basically a marketing gold mine for WWE back then. And I thought this was very good, and I also say, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. And that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.